Welcome back to Celebrity Catwalk. As usual, we're bringing you brand new programming. And today we're kind of tackling a serious topic because let's face it, every month could technically be Domestic Violence Awareness Month. But we have two special guests with us today. Is it Kim Kavern?
Yep.
Beautiful, I got it right. Kim Kavern, who is the Senior Director in the Crime Victim Assistance Program of Safe Horizon.
Correct.
Thank you very much for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
And domestic violence has really hit personally to you, Revi. Thank you very much. This is Revital Simmons, but I call you Revi, so Revi is good. And today we're really going to discuss, for the purposes of this conversation, we're going to discuss what you can do and what resources are available if you suspect or have a feeling that a friend, a family member, a coworker is dealing with domestic violence. Please, Kim, if you can even start us right off with telling us about Safe Horizon and the resources that you offer, because that's really the most important thing, I think.
Sure. So Safe Horizon is the nation's largest victim service agency. We have over 100 sites across New York City in all 5 boroughs, and we touch the lives of over 250,000 New Yorkers every year. We're actually a crime, or we work with victims of all types of crime, but we're really known and thought of as a domestic violence organization, and a good portion of our services are focused around domestic violence. So to that end, we run the city's 24-hour domestic violence hotline. I know the number will be on the screen. It can also be accessed by calling 311.
Okay, so good to know. I'm sorry, I just want to jump in. So you can access the domestic violence helpline by calling 311.
You can. So if you call and say that you're experiencing domestic violence, they will link you directly to the hotline, so you don't have to memorize the number.
Excellent.
And that hotline is free, it's 24 hours, and it's confidential, and that can also be a gateway into our other programs at Safe Horizon. So if you're not sure where the best fit is, the hotline can connect you with other services.
Excellent. And what if I am suffering, or if I am the victim of domestic violence, how can Safe Horizon help me if I turn to you for help?
So I think what we want our survivors to know is that help is available, that help is free, it's confidential, and that we are not going to tell you what to do. So what we really want to do is talk to you about what's going on in your life. We want to hear about your safety concerns, and we want to help you build a safety plan that's going to be right for you. So we're not telling you what you should do, we're not telling you that you should leave, but we want to help you be safer in whatever way that means to you.
So as a friend, if I suspect that a friend or a coworker is the victim of domestic violence, what can I do or not do, I guess, is the first question. I guess it's a line that you draw in the sand. And Revi, do you, as being firsthand experiencing this, if you could turn back the hands of time, is there anything you would do differently? And if you would tell a little bit, let me have you please start by telling a little bit of your story and your friend and how this has impacted you.
Okay, so my friend's name is Reagan. I met her at our French Bulldog meetup group. She has 2 French Bulldogs, and unfortunately she was a victim of domestic violence last year. An ex-boyfriend broke into her apartment and shot her and then shot himself. She was seeking help, she was trying to seek help, but to your question, I think that there is a very fine line between offering help and creating negativity. No one wants to be associated with the word victim. Definitely not strong women, which she was. So she was going to the channels, the regular channels, police, but she wasn't really thinking that this would happen. She minimized it. She didn't show us the severity of her case. And as a friend, if I could turn back time, I think that if I knew what I know now, I might be able to help her. maybe I would offer her more support. A lot of our close friends told her, just leave, just file a complaint, a restraining order, go to the police. And it's really hard for someone that is so, I think, ashamed or scared for their safety to admit that they're in this position and that they need help. So if I could offer support, if I could tell her more about how wonderful she is and how much, love doesn't have to be a painful thing. Love is a beautiful thing, and maybe help her build her confidence and give her strength to go to the channels that are available, maybe things would be different. But I didn't know. I didn't know that Safe Horizon existed. I never came close to anything like that. No one wants to be part of it. No one wants to be associated with someone like that. It's just too painful. So I'm glad that she made me, or what happened to her made me get so much involved. We hosted a charity event last year, and we hosted a charity event for Safe Horizon just last Sunday night. So if I couldn't help her, if I can't help her, I'm so grateful that I have the opportunity to help others by exposing Safe Horizon and introducing their resources that are available to not only women and men that are, in domestic violence relationships, but the LGBTQ community and all your beautiful work that you do for whoever's in need.
Right. So Kim, if we can walk me through the steps. So I'm a man or a woman, and I am in a violent relationship, and I call Safe Horizon or I call 311. What happens next?
So we are going to listen to you as you tell us what's happening in your relationship. So we're going to ask you some questions. Tell me why you called. Tell me what's happening in your relationship. Tell me what you're afraid of. We are going to validate all of those feelings and that it's really complicated. I think to the point that you made so beautifully, survivors are hearing from other people that they need to leave, that they need to call the police, that they need to get a restraining order against the person. And those can all be really good resources, but the person might not be ready to do those things. And if I'm telling you that that's what you need to do and you're not ready to do that, then you're probably not going to come back to me the next time that you need help. So we're going to listen to all of the things that are making your relationship so complicated and so scary and so abusive. We're going to help you. We're going to help educate you on your risk. So we're going to talk to you about the things that you're describing that sound scary to us. Right. So to your point, your friend, and thank you so much for sharing her story. And I'm so sorry that happened to her and to you. She might not have realized some of the things in her relationship that were putting her at risk. She might not want to admit that those things are happening. We know that domestic violence can be really, really isolating, both because the abuser can be purposefully isolating someone, and also because the survivor might be ashamed to admit that some of those things are happening in the relationship. So we're going to help educate you on your risk, and then we're going to ask you what you want to do. What do you want to happen? And we're going to see if we can partner together to come up with a plan that works for you, and acknowledge that plan might change, right? So this might be the plan that's right for you today. Tomorrow or next week or next month, you might want to make different decisions, or the risk in your relationship might look different. So we're going to be here to partner with you as long as you need us to partner with you.
I think that we have to remember that a lot of people stay in the relationship because of other reasons. Financial dependency, children, and isolation. They depend on that person. It's a manipulator. They depend on that person so deeply that if we tell them to leave, you're just pulling the rug from under their feet. They can't do it. You said there has to be a plan, and I think a plan is a beautiful word, because it says you build something, you have a goal, you aim towards something. And when we tell people that help is available and free help is available, and we can get to safety. There is hope. We give hope. I feel that's the best way to approach someone that is currently in this sad and hard and fearful place, trying to lift them up personally and away from the relationship.
I think it's also, you brought up a couple of really good points. I think it's also to remember that in many cases, the person who's causing harm in the relationship is someone that the victim might also love, and that can feel really complicated. I love this person, I've built a life with this person, I have memories and inside jokes and all of those things with that person, and this person also treats me in ways that I don't like, that don't feel good, and that is complicated. Many times clients come to us saying that they want their abusive partner to get help. They want them to change their behavior, but they also want to stay in the relationship. And the reality that getting out of a relationship is often on the shoulders of the victim or the survivor is that that's a really complicated dynamic. And I think also I appreciate what you said about the word plan. Sadly, what we often see when we hear about tragic domestic violence homicides in the paper is that the victim was attempting to leave an abusive relationship. And I think that that speaks to really the need for a plan. And we're certainly not saying that you shouldn't leave, but we want to help survivors think about what safety is going to look like as they're leaving, so that hopefully we can attempt to minimize some of those risks when they're leaving, because leaving means a loss of power and control by the abusive partner.
And is there really help for the, forgive my cynical, crusty, terrible, pessimistic, negative outlook, so let me preface it with that. But is there really help for the abuser? Are there really reformed abusers? Can I really be an abuser one day and and stop that habit or that behavior, if you will, the next? Is that it?
I guess it depends on the person, just like drug abuse. Sometimes it comes from abuse of some sort, alcohol, drugs,
right.
And if someone stops drinking, they stop being aggressive. Sometimes it comes from their own stress. So I want to believe in humanity.
That's why you see I prefaced it with, is it? Do you see that at all? Is that happening?
So in my program at Safe Verizon, we don't work with the abusive partner. We do have a program in Staten Island, our Safeway Forward program, that does provide services to the entire family. So if we didn't believe that people who caused harm could change, we wouldn't have that program. I'm certainly not the expert on that. What I will say is that we want to be careful when we are talking to people. We often hear, my partner is abusive because he or she drinks or because he or she needs anger management. And we want to be careful about that, because we also know that the person who is abusing their partner is not generally abusing just people in their life because they have anger problems or substance abuse problems, right? When they're at the bar drinking, they're not beating up the bartender, they're not going to work and beating up their boss, they are coming home and really instituting a very manipulative pattern of power and control on their partner. So drugs or alcohol certainly might exacerbate abuse, but it's not the cause of it. I also like to believe that people are capable of change, but I personally, and this is sort of a personal and not a professional opinion, I think that people change when they want to change, and not when they're forced to change. So I would like to believe that it's possible that someone might see that this behavior is not helping me and it's hurting people I love, and I don't want to do this anymore, and so I'm going to seek help, and that's possible. But I think that involves someone acknowledging that their behavior is harmful.
Right. Are there classic signs that if you're working with me, or if you're a coworker or your family member, are there classic signs that you can look out for that you feel like might signal any bells or whistles or red flags?
Yeah.
So that I think it's important for people to know what to keep an eye out for.
Yeah. So, I mean, some of the classics are someone who is really overly jealous, someone who is isolating you. So, maybe you see your mom on the weekends and your partner is saying, I don't think your mom likes me. I don't want you to spend time with your mom anymore because I feel like she's getting in the way of our relationship. That person who is texting you every 5 minutes because they want to know where you are, who you're with. But on a broader sense, I sort of think of it as someone who's not respecting your boundaries. And boundaries are going to look different for different people. But if you want to have control over your finances and your partner is not allowing you to do that, that's a flag to me that someone is exerting some power and control over areas of your life that you're not comfortable with. If you're expressing what feels safe to you in an argument and your partner repeatedly ignores that or is violating that, that's a red flag to me. Because what we also know is that domestic violence escalates over time, right? When you go out on your first date with someone, they're generally not abusive to you because then there probably wouldn't be a second date. But I think that in the beginning of the relationship, if the person is doing things that are clearly in violation of your boundaries, even after you've expressed that you're not comfortable with things, those are things that you should really look out for.
I think from a friend standpoint, if I had known to recognize the change in behavior, in the amount of phone calls, in the amount of times that we spent apart without the person, that person, the happy person that turned into someone that is more reserved and quiet, if I knew to look for that, I think I'd be in a different position. So maybe look for any changes in demeanor, in someone maybe starts saying bad things about themselves. I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough, I'm not pretty enough, I need to change how I look, I need, make all these changes to make someone else happy. I think that's a sign from a side, your friend.
Right. And if your friend or your coworker or your colleague is in a full-blown bad situation and is being and is the, for lack of a better word, as we said, victim is such a bad, we don't like that word, but do you step in, or is stepping in really not? Are you putting yourself in danger by stepping in? Do you all feel, or is it more harm? Does it do more harm than good? I think sometimes people want to get in there and stop and insert themselves or even threaten the abuser. How does that probably doesn't bode well for...
It's a really hard situation. So I also want to say to you, of course, in hindsight, it's easy to look back and say, I wish I had done all of those things, and I can so appreciate that. And I also want to say it's a really hard situation to be in. I think if you see someone that is in imminent danger and something unsafe is happening right now in the moment, then you should call 911. And I realize that interactions with the police are complicated for a lot of reasons, but I would not step in, or I wouldn't recommend that anyone personally step in and try to intervene in a dangerous situation, because you're putting yourself in danger and then you can't help. And I also wouldn't advocate doing nothing. Beyond that, I think that because domestic violence can be so isolating, I would want to say something to the friend or the coworker or the family member. I would want to do it in a safe space that's confidential, that's private. I would want to do it in a way that expresses that I love you and I care about you and I'm concerned about you. And I wouldn't tell someone what to do, but I would say, you have said things, or I've seen things in your relationship that make me feel concerned for you, and you certainly don't have to talk to me, but I want you to know that I'm here and that I care about you and that I'm listening, and also that there are resources available, right? So don't expect that you're going to be the expert or the professional, and it can also be very draining on you to be the person who is constantly there for someone, but to say, I am here, I am going to listen, and also I know about resources like Verizon that can help you, that are free, that aren't going to tell you what to do, and try to make that connection.
Would you open your home would you say to the person, come stay with me?
That's a good question. I think that's,
or is it just by case?
I think it would be case by case. I think if the abusive partner knows where you live, you would have to weigh that. And are you putting yourself at risk? Are you still putting the person who is being harmed at risk? Recognizing that there are places like domestic violence shelters, and Safe Horizon provides some of those spaces in the city. Those are all accessible through the hotline, and those are confidential, safe spaces that might be a safer option, but there might be opportunities where staying at your house are safe for you and safe for the person experiencing harm.
Right. Are you seeing, Kim, an uptick in men being the victims of domestic violence?
So statistics show that 1 in 4 women and 1 in 7 men will be a survivor of domestic violence at some point in their life. And we know that those numbers on both sides are underreported, right? Those are just the numbers of people that we know about because they have sought services. I don't believe that there is an uptick because there is an uptick in violence happening. I think there's an uptick in people knowing that services are available and coming forward. So that does speak to an increase in people coming through our door, including men. But I don't think that's because there's an increase in violence happening.
Right. And also what we've read about and seen is, unfortunately, in the LGBT community, there has been, in terms of transsexual women and people who are going through gender reassignment, a lot of violence against women. Do you find that to be, and I may be splitting hairs here, if that's just violence against women or domestic violence, or perhaps it is unfortunately both?
We definitely know that members of the LGBTQ community are at higher risk and often don't seek services for a lot of reasons. So one thing that we really strive to do at Safe Horizon is make all of our spaces very inclusive and welcoming. We are, and I would say that one thing that people can do is be very mindful of the language that they're using, right? Not referencing domestic violence victims as she and abusers as he, and really being mindful that domestic violence impacts everybody in every community.
Right, that's what I even wanted to, because I knew that men are, unfortunately, and I'm sure that there is men who are victims at the hands of other men and other women. So I definitely want to be inclusive in terms of, it's not just the traditional women who are suffering at the hands of men. Right. I'm sure as times go on, you're seeing a little bit of everything, so to speak. So Safe Horizon, just to make sure we're clear, you provide shelters, counseling, services.
Yes, I'm sure that I will miss something.
Right. I want to.
We have our hotline. We are the largest provider of domestic violence shelter beds in New York City, all of which are accessible through our hotline.
So man, woman, or child can come to Safe Horizon and be taken in.
Yes.
Okay.
All free, all confidential. The program that I work for has advocates in every police precinct across New York City. So we have a domestic violence advocate and a general crime victim advocate in all 86 precincts and police service areas in the city. We have counseling and therapeutic services for survivors. We provide group counseling for survivors. We are in the courts in New York City to help survivors access orders of protection, custody, lawyers. We have immigration services for folks who might be undocumented. I'm sure I'm missing something. So if I'm missing your program, don't.
Okay, we are. See, I'm telling you, we've just scratched the tip of the iceberg. Before we close out, do you feel that the laws, Kim, is the system? Is it changing? Is it helping? Are we seeing some change? Because many times, as we all know, I took out the restraining order, or I filed the paperwork, or I told the police, and it's still continuing.
So what I will say is that the criminal justice system is not the only option, and it's not the best option for everyone, which is why we don't say you should call the police, you should get an order of protection. Those can be really valuable resources, and they might not be right for everyone. So we want to really hear about a survivor's individual situation. I think that, yes, laws are changing and changing for the better. Safe Horizon does a lot of work and advocacy on government levels to change laws, and it's not the only option.
Unfortunately, change takes time, but there is there is change, which is good. So as long as we continue raising awareness, as long as we continue telling people that they have other options aside from going to the police or going to the court to get a restraining order, they can seek other options. So exposure is everything. Let people know that there is help and that there is hope.
Excellent, excellent. Please, we'll have it at the bottom of the screen, but can we have the Safe Horizon number? Again, just to reiterate, you can access Safe Horizon through 311, but if you want to call directly, the number is
1-800-621-4673, which is 621-HOPE.
621-HOPE. There you go. That's very good, and it's safehorizon.org.
Yep.
And like Kim said, you're throughout the city of New York, so anyone who's watching this, you can access free confidential services regardless of your gender, sex, race, age,
Immigration
status, everything.
Yes.
You cover it. Excellent. Revi, Kim, thank you all very much for coming. Like I said, we've really just scraped the surface, so we'll have to have you both back to really delve into more and to talk about more things. Hopefully in 2020, we'll see some more laws change and help. So thank you very much. Thank you very much for catching us on Manhattan Neighborhood Network. And if you're watching us on YouTube, be sure to like and subscribe so that you won't miss a single episode. Thank you so much for catching us. This is Celebrity Catwalk.